Welcome to the Motherhood Alliance podcast, the podcast dedicated to empowering moms and families on their health and wellness journey. I'm Brittany Suttner.
And I'm Andrea Rankus. Together, we're here to explore holistic approaches that go beyond conventional medicine.
Each week, we dive into topics that matter most to you, everything from nutrition and mental health to alternative therapies and natural living.
We'll bring you the expert interviews, insightful discussions, and practical tips to make motherhood a little easier and help your family thrive.
Please keep in mind that this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to replace the advice, diagnosis, or treatment plans you have with your personal healthcare team. Please have a conversation with your trusted healthcare provider prior to making any changes or implementing any strategies or advice you learn from this podcast.
Whether you're a new mom navigating the early stages of parenthood or a seasoned pro looking for new ways to support your family's well-being, you're in the right place.
Here at the Motherhood Alliance podcast, we challenge the status quo, ask the tough questions, and offer a supportive community for moms who want to make an informed, holistic choice.
Thank you for joining us on this journey.
Let's get started. Hi, we are Britt and Drea from motherhoodalliance.com, and we are excited to welcome you to a 4-episode series with two of the amazing ladies from Alba Birth Center. Katie is a licensed professional midwife who joined Alba in 2016 and has attended over 350 births. She is a skilled educator who brings a wealth of wisdom and is incredible at breaking down complicated topics so her clients can feel supported and informed, and you'll hear that in these episodes. She is a strong advocate for environments that support physiological birth, and Katie loves coffee and has 2 young kids who were born in an out-of-hospital setting under midwifery care. Aubrey is the CEO of Alba, and she oversees the day-to-day operations and communications. She is a huge advocate for birth choice and is passionate about providing top-notch care for families in Northeast Wisconsin. And Audrey also brings a unique perspective to our conversations, as she personally has experienced the difference in birth settings as a mom who has given birth in both a hospital setting and at Alba Birth Center. This 4-part series with Katie and Aubrey includes some really fun topics, including the history of midwifery and current birth choices, the ancestral wisdom of birth, super cool, the cascade of interventions, what it is and how to advocate for yourself, and tips for partners during birth. Be sure to listen to all of them. All right, it's time to dive into today's episode's conversation.
Hey, welcome back to the Motherhood Alliance podcast. We're back here with Katie and Aubrey. We're really excited to be talking about birthing partners and how to involve them and really what that all looks like today. So if you haven't listened to the first 3 episodes, definitely take a listen to those. Those have been amazing. We have been having so much fun with this. So, all right, Katie, let's talk about how we can, or like, what would be your recommendations for involving in birthing partners? And I know this is a huge thing, so
Yes.
we'd love to hear it.
Okay. I always take a deep breath before this one because it's something I'm very passionate about. It's something that I witness all the time about partners coming into the birth experience feeling like they don't have a space, and how detrimental that is to our men. And even as we raise our young boys and really thinking that birth is only for women, birth is for women, right? Birth belongs to women, but birth, you have conception. So the men are involved as well. So when you have a birthing partner in the birth space, it's really imperative that they understand that they are there to be what they need to be and what they want to be, and the other people move around them. A lot of times we see skittish partners, right? You walk in the room and they're like perk up, like almost at like attention, and you like move toward them and they like dart across the room away because they want to get out of the way.
Oh, sure.
No, you stay put. We will move around you. So whenever I come to the conversation about how should partners be involved, well, first of all, it's however involved they want to be, first and foremost, right? Some partners are like, oh my gosh, I cannot even see blood. I'm going to just stay away here. I cannot see birth. I'm going to stay in this corner. But before that whole event happens of the baby actually coming out and you feeling like you may not be able to handle the sight of it all, labor happens. And so when you have a laboring mother, without getting too far into it, and I kind of alluded to this in the last episode we did as well, a mother's brain changes so much when they are in labor. And what essentially has to happen is they turn off their decision-making brain, which is the frontal cortex. That's your prioritization. That's your decision-making. That's your rational thoughts, all of that. And you surrender over to your hindbrain, which is, fight or flight, breathe, adrenaline, oxytocin, heartbeat, all of that sort of stuff. The more into labor that a woman gets, the less part of society they become. Think about cats having babies, right? You like have a cat, all of a sudden they're gone for a day, and all of a sudden you hear meowing underneath in your basement. You're like, what is that? What's happening down there? And they like went away, they hid themselves, had some babies, and now they're like, hey, yeah, I'll be part of society again. This is essentially what women want to do. Though we are much more rational than that, than cats, and we don't hide ourselves under stairwells and have babies and then come out, a few days later. But it doesn't mean that that's not what our DNA wants from us. And so when you have a mom that enters into early labor, most likely what will happen is she starts to question how much she wants to be a part of society. She starts to question her hunger. She starts to question how often she should empty her bladder. She starts to question it. Not that she questions it, meaning like, do I have to or do I not? It becomes less important. So the more involved in labor you get, the less your hierarchy of needs becomes a priority for you, for a woman. So when I talk about birthing partners, or when I talk about support people or husbands or dads or whatever that person is for you in your birth space, I always talk about, don't be the person that's a coach, and be the person that is the keeper. So men, become the keeper of your woman, right? Become her keeper, because what ends up happening is when we are in the midst of our laboring, what we want is safety, which is what the cat wanted as well, right? We want safety out of our surroundings, out of our environment, out of our people in the room, out of our whatever, which is why almost always you see labor kind of stall out if you're doing your thing at home and you make your way to the birth center or to the hospital. Things kind of, you're like, no, I promise I was in labor at home. And you're like, okay, well, that's okay. Just let your brain kind of get recalibrated, right? Because what happens is if you force her to turn that part of her brain back on, she kind of pulls out of that really primal being. And so for birthing partners, my biggest tip for birthing partners is to become her keeper. So you're going to become the keeper of her needs. You're going to become the keeper of her nourishment, right? You're going to become the keeper of her hydration. And what that looks like in an active labor pattern is have a big water jug, for example, with a straw. Always have a straw. And in between a really hard contraction, every time she ends a contraction, she'll do, take a deep breath. And you're going to simply put the straw to her lips and you're going to say, here's a sip of water. Don't ask her if she wants a sip of water. She'll say, I don't know, or no, or whatever, right? She's not in that space anymore. Remember, she's not thinking like she normally would. You're going to meet a whole new version of your woman that you've never met. And so the same with food. You're the keeper of her food when she becomes not. You're going to take a piece of food, you're going to put it to her lips and say, here's a bite of your strawberry. She's going to take a bite and she's going to say, oh, thank you. And it's a beautiful dance to watch the husbands and the dads and the birthing support people become the keeper of the things that she is going to move out of. And so you're the keeper of the nourishment. You're the keeper of the food. You're also going to be the keeper of time. So when you're in labor, you lose track of time. It either feels like it's moving in fast forward or it's in reverse, right? Because you're not really paying attention. You're not looking at the clock. The sun will come up and the sun will go down and you feel like it's been 2 hours. And so you become the keeper of time that the husbands do, and the dads do, and the birthing partners. When you become the keeper of time, essentially what you're doing is you're just kind of being aware of like, what time of day is it? Have you emptied your bladder in the last 2 hours? Have you moved, right? Sometimes we get this like labor paralysis where we just sit in labor for 4 hours and you're like, oh my gosh, you haven't moved in forever. Get up and move. You have to move your body. You have to empty your bladder. You have to eat. You have to drink. You have to move. So you're going to become the keeper of time. You're also going to become the keeper of almost like the gatekeeper, right? So the keeper of the phone. Like, don't be on your phone, right? This is a big tip. Don't be on your phone, because if we need safety and we look up and we see you on your phone, to us, how that translates, and as for women who are in labor, is that you're not present. And we want presence. We want presence and safety. So you might be like, no, I'm just taking care of the dogs. Like, I'm whatever. Do it kind of privately, or do it in secret, or go to the bathroom and answer the phone or whatever. You become the gatekeeper. So if people are coming to the door, you're not going to let her answer that, right? You're just really protecting her space and her hierarchy of needs. You're the keeper of all the things. You're the keeper of movement. You're making sure that, right, like I said before, like she's moving, she's staying on top of changing her positioning. And you really just become her keeper throughout this whole process. And this becomes a really empowering thing for men, because they feel like they don't have a place in the labor land. And it can be really empowering for him to then, you move to the birth space and you're like, he lists off, here's what's been working, and here's where her contractions are at, and here is this, and this. It's a very empowering thing for a protective man to do that, and to space to step into. And then, of course, you're the keeper of whatever kind of touch or words that she needs. So you're her keeper of, I guess, the intimacy of this. So if she wants touch, if she wants kissing, if she wants words of affirmation, if she wants nothing, you're the keeper of those things, because you can really understand her and know, like, okay, when I say these things to her, and when you do give words of affirmation, you're going to say, you're doing great. You're so strong. You look beautiful, rather than, remember, breathe. And she's going to be like, I can't breathe. And right, that's a whole different conversation. That's a whole fight. So just being mindful of how are you keeping her space and how are you going to step into the space that she's stepping out of to have this baby.
So how can a couple talk about this ahead of time? So you
Yeah.
kind of talk about how a woman's brain shifts
Yes.
during labor, right? And when you're talking about this during pregnancy, you could be like, what kind of foods might you want there?
Sure.
You know, so how what are some tips for during pregnancy?
Yes.
How they can pre-plan for this? Or, and this is almost a different question, how can a support partner support during pregnancy, even before labor starts? So kind of a two-part question.
Yeah. And I always just warn the dads, like the dads don't usually become pregnant until the baby comes out, right? That's like her pregnancy starts at conception and when she starts to feel the changes of her body and the baby moving and all of that. That's kind of a very, it's almost like a secret. Like we get to have this to ourselves. And the dads don't really get it, right? Mom's like, I need the nursery done. And the dads are like, we got time. We're good. We got time. We got 2 months. And she's like, no, I need this because his brain is not pregnant yet. And so I always just warn people, almost like a warning, like to the dads and to the moms, like don't hold anything against them because they are not pregnant yet. When the baby comes out, then they're like, oh shoot, okay, yeah, like now I understand the urgency around the things. During pregnancy, I think it's just helpful to know that the changes will happen and pregnancy and labor and delivery just happen to you. You don't have to choose these things. So during pregnancy, just knowing that everything changes and talking about these, having someone tell you like, okay, in labor, you're going to feel useless. And also labor isn't short. And so after 3 hours of this, you're going to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my mind. And just talking about what is a normal birth. I think informing partners on physiological birth and what's normal in the birth space is actually the most helpful part because otherwise you walk into it and they just expect to, I don't know, show up at the hospital, you have a baby and you go home. You're like, there are absolutely no details shared about what that actually looks like when you're there. And so just knowing, of course, nutritionally, right? So partners cooking, that can be really helpful. Making nutritious foods, making sure, I don't know, she always has a full water jug all the time.
What's interesting is that usually women tend to be in charge of all the things,
Yes.
right? And not every time, but dads or men tend to kind of follow along or, you know, look for their wife for the guidance.
Yep.
But in this case, we're trying to kind of flip the script. Like she's out of her, like literally out of her mind, deep in her back brain, right? Her hind brain. You need to know what she needs.
Yes.
Like thinking ahead of time.
Yep.
Talking about ahead of time.
Love languages, right? So if you don't have a person that loves being touched, she's probably not going to want to be touched, right? Not overdoing it, not being a coach, really practicing nonverbal language, right? So if you are noticing, I always tell people in class, like if you are someone that holds your tension in your shoulders and during a contraction, you lift your shoulders, instead of hearing 40,000 times, drop your shoulders from your husband or your partner, that's going to get old. You're going to get annoyed by that, hearing that over and over. So come up with something nonverbal, right? So if the dad or the husband sees tension in shoulders, just simply putting his hand on the shoulders, just to remind her, okay, let it all out, can be super helpful. So talking about like those mundane things, because a lot of people just expect labor to be quick. Like it's not going to be that hard, that long, right? No, it's a marathon. And knowing that, also staying hydrated and nourished themselves, because a lot of times the dads will just forget about all of their needs, and then they're useless, right? They're useless at the end because
this is also why like a doula, hiring a doula or having another support person there is so helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just think, just allowing the dads to hold their rightful place at birth, and not feel skittish and not have to move out of the way of the providers and not feel like they don't have a say in all of this. Yes, birth belongs to women and to that woman, but also it has to be a family unit and it has to be a cohesive. If you walk into postpartum as a partnership, it's going to be 10 times more successful. And just having realistic expectations around what is actually happening for a mom who's birthing. I typically tell dads it's about 3 years before they kind of get back to their normal self. And usually by that time, we're having more babies, right?
That's true.
And so it's usually like 3 to 7 years that women need to kind of feel like they didn't just have a baby.
I think honestly, women need to hear that too.
I would 100% agree with that.
Yes.
I recently had a friend come up to me. She had her 4th baby not that long ago. And she was like, tell me, when did you feel like yourself again? And I was like, do you want the truth?
Yeah.
I said, probably not until my youngest was at least 3.
Yeah.
That was my exact number. And in my head, I was like, maybe even a little longer.
For sure.
Well, you sent out the survey asking what our hobbies were. And I had to sit there and think. And I go, I don't have hobbies. I'm a mom. My entire life revolves around keeping 2 little humans alive.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no time for hobbies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what a hobby would be at this point. And so
But give yourself a couple years.
Yeah.
And, maybe you'll do jujitsu with your husband or something.
Or back at it.
And someday, like I have a 10 and an 8-year-old, now we're doing adventures.
Yeah.
It's so different.
Kind of you.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. So hang in there.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think one thing that I'm hearing you say as well, though, is that the dad should also be really thinking about what he wants his experience to be during this.
Yes.
And then to communicate that with you guys, right? Because if he's like, I feel really overwhelmed with the pressure points and I'm going to want help from you guys with that. Like having a conversation and communication is just, it's going to be key, right? But not being afraid to also express his fears and what you might need help with.
Yeah. Or the questions too that he doesn't know to ask.
Yes. I know a lot of times we get consults with dads who are like, I don't know, I'm here because she is, or I'm going to support her with whatever she wants. That's a wonderful initiative, right? It's beautiful to hear men supporting women in the birth space that they are choosing. It has to be deeper than that, though. It has to be deeper. And we always laugh. Like a lot of times we have some dads who have come through and they're kind of skeptical about the whole process of birth, because what even is birth to a man, right? Like what even is that experience for them? This is what I mean. I always ask my husband, like, what does your brain do when you, whatever? Because I can't even imagine walking through that as a man, just like along for the ride, really.
Right. Yeah.
And we always kind of joke, like, we're going to make a believer out of you, not because I have something to prove to you, but you are going to realize that the deepness of birth is so ingrained in you as well. To protect your woman and to watch your baby come into this earth is something beyond.
Yeah, I don't think they realize how transformative and empowering it is for them too.
And I think it's silly. I'm putting air quotes. It's like silly for men to enjoy birth because it's not masculine. I'm like, dude, I see a lot of birth. I have never, in the hospital setting, I never saw intimate birth. I never saw intimacy. It was cold. It was sterile. It was, you go up there, I'll go over here. In the birth space, in an out of hospital setting, especially home birth, the intimacy that is there, and I'm not talking like, you're not like groping each other, right? This isn't like gross intimacy. This is like cool intimacy.
No, this is like
connection.
Oh my God, like
imagine.
Deeply rooted, ancestral, right? Like back to the primal beings that we are, and that men are. They are told that they aren't supposed to be this way because they're supposed to be manly. It's like there is nothing more manly about watching a man get excited about his woman having a baby. It's so cool.
And seeing that protective.
Oh my gosh, it's so cool.
I love how you're giving them a job too, because men need jobs. And how you label it, the keeper. I love it.
Be the keeper of her. And this happens then postpartum as well, right? Like this extends beyond labor. You continue being her keeper. Because if you actually give a man a job that actually resonates with how their brain works, remember, I'm still on the hunt for how men's brains work. Being the keeper is something that he will gladly step into if he feels welcome, right? If he feels like that's a space that's safe for him. Almost always the men will be like, I got you, girl. Like, no problem at all. Like, you want this? I got you. I will hold your hips until I'm blue in the face, right? Because that's his job. It's his job to protect, and it's his job to protect her and then baby. And she is just whatever she's doing in labor land, right? She's just on the roller coaster of birth. And it's super cool to watch dads step into that keeper mode and then even postpartum. So talking about what is postpartum going to look like when you're pregnant? When are we going to have visitors? Where's the baby going to sleep? How are we going to feed this baby? What kind of discipline? What kind of school are we going to send this baby to, right? I'm getting into the weeds a little bit, but having these hard conversations ahead of time can be really, really good. And then men just knowing that you have a space in the birth space. And then I will also say this because there are some women that do not have men, right? There are some women that don't have a birthing partner. Knowing that you can find someone to fill that space. It may not be the same. It may feel a little bit like a substitute teacher situation. But you can find someone to be your keeper. And don't not find a keeper. Like make sure you find someone, whether that's a doula or your mom or an auntie or whatever it ends up being. I am not naive to think that everyone comes in with a stellar birth partner. We have seen a lot at the birth center to know that is not always true. And so to encourage these men to step into their rightful place, and if they aren't there or they won't do it, then we need to find someone else to do that because women should not birth alone. They should not do that. Whether there's like 12 people in the room, but they still feel alone, right? That's a whole different conversation.
For sure. Oh man, this was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, this was great. I think that this is kind of a hot topic too, because it's something that's not, it's not a hot topic. It's something that's not really talked about enough. And then I again, like we've talked about in prior episodes, women don't typically know what questions to ask about pregnancy and birth. Men don't know what questions to ask about what their role should be.
Yes.
And so giving them roles and having a conversation like this and encouraging women to encourage their men.
Yeah.
That they have a place here is incredible. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing, ladies. Again, can you just tell us how people can connect with you?
Yes. So I'm a midwife at Alba Birth Center. Aubrey is our director. She's a beautiful director there. So you can find us at albabirthcenter.com. We are on social media as well. I also have my own Instagram and Facebook, Katie Duncan. And yeah, you can find us there. You can call us, set up a consult, and come talk to us. We love talking to people.
albabirthcenter.com.
Wonderful. Wonderful. This has been an absolutely wonderful series to be with you guys. We've had so many great conversations, and we can't wait to have you back again in the future.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider leaving a rating or review or sharing it directly with a friend who could benefit from the information? We know that you're a busy mom or caregiver, and our goal is to make your life easier by bringing tips and tricks directly from experts into your earbuds. By sharing this episode with someone you love, you can play a critical role in helping to make their life easier as well. We appreciate your time, and thank you for being a part of the Motherhood Alliance family.